Hi everyone. It is e-commerce week here at the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, and experts from all around the world are in town this week to talk about how digital can work for development. And we're lucky enough to have us joining here today Dulit Herat, who is the founder of Kapooka.com, which is Sri Lanka's largest e-commerce platform, as well as a new startup called Grasshoppers, and he's also a good friend. Dulit, thanks so much for being here. How are you?
I'm good.
Great. So you just finished a panel about logistics.
Right.
And earlier this week you talked about how e-commerce can work in developing countries.
Right.
So what were the key emerging trends that you heard?
The number one thing is how close we are to almost perfecting cross-border e-commerce. And that's really nothing but great news for developing countries, because now you suddenly have, I'm not talking about importing these things into our country, I'm talking about them having the opportunity now to export and having access to these mature e-commerce markets like the US and Germany, etc. So that's if I had to make one, that's cross-border is the number one.
But there are still challenges, right, that need to be addressed, especially in developing countries.
The biggest challenge is what I'm trying to solve with Grasshoppers is last mile. And if you take most these LDCs, that means least developed countries, why e-commerce is not flourishing is not because they don't have payment gateways, not because they don't have websites or internet, etc. It's because really the number one reason is they don't have proper logistics to do last mile delivery. And big boys like DHL and UPS, they fail at this because they're not really set up to do these up the mountain remote delivery.
Right.
Right.
So you're actually going to be addressing this kind of issue not just in Sri Lanka but hopefully in other countries as well.
Now what we are building is a technology stack or a bundled product that can go to any country and become a last mile logistics provider overnight. So I mean, how long does it take Uber to come to a country now? It takes a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because it's a technology.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we are building in Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka is a perfect atmosphere to test this, mature this, perfect it, and then you can go boom, boom, boom.
And you actually developed a lot of these skills in perfecting this system because you won the prestigious Eisenhower Fellowship recently, which took you to the likes of, Google, Amazon, Facebook, everything.
115 CEOs.
115 CEOs in how many days?
In 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yes, that was crazy.
That's amazing.
Right.
So what did you bring from that experience back home to Sri Lanka?
I could split those 115 meetings, half and half, one into e-commerce and one into logistics. That's how I actually set up those meetings, and it's so much of learnings. I don't think I can do this in a tweet. But one important thing I learned was how close are we to these global giants in e-commerce like Amazon and eBay, how close they are now to developed countries because of logistics becoming so perfect. I mean, they were so far away because of this big gap. The first mile of picking up a product, flying the item, and doing the last mile delivery. It learned a lot.
And speaking of making all these connections, if you look back several years, like let's say 14 years or so.
14?
Yeah, so more than just a few years, but you started Kapooka.com, which is now your country's largest e-commerce platform, back when you were really young, right? And
I'm still young.
You're still young, but younger. When you were younger.
Yeah. Everybody asked me this question. I mean, I was in a developing country, far more less developed 14 years ago. Why did you try e-commerce? So your question is, why did I do that? Or what drove me?
How did you do it, despite all the challenges? And then what can you share with others?
It's that entrepreneur nerve I have and wanting to really do this. And I was lucky enough to have a glimpse at the US at that time because I was at Microsoft. So I saw this e-commerce wave like a tsunami rising. And I just rushed back home and said, look, there's this wave coming. I'm going to get ready for it. And that's what I did. So I had an insight. So I was lucky to see that in the US.
But it's one thing to know something's happening and then another thing to make it happen.
That's the entrepreneur guts you need, and that drive you have. You will want to wake up to problems in the morning. And it's just, I remember still 14 years ago, I would wake up with one eye open. I would go to the laptop to see, have I got that first order? Have I got that first order?
Wow.
And then it was like, have I got 5 orders this week? So it grew very organically like that.
So what are some concrete things that other young people who want to do what you did can follow?
I always tell you have to fall in love with your idea. You have to really fall in love with it. When you're in love with an idea, you wake up to it. You can see it in your eyes. You dream about it. You go to sleep thinking about it. You wake up in the morning thinking about it, and that's That's how it works. But also I must tell that for the new entrepreneurs, you must also now have the guts and the courage to give up. Right? Because yes, because it used to be like Mr. Never Give Up, right? But you can't do that anymore because the time is moving so fast. If you're stuck and stubborn on one idea for like multiple years, the time would have moved so fast. You could do that 10 years ago and become Mr. Never Give Up, but now you should know when to give up and switch gears and do the next thing.
Start a new company, you're saying?
Start a new company or find out what's wrong with it, admit that what you are trying to do is not working, and move faster.
And that kind of mindset you're still using in other things, right?
Yeah, I mean, a good example is Grasshoppers. We've changed the business model 20 times maybe in the last 1 year. We are very adaptable. Right? That's also our strength.
Well said. Was there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of looking forward, where you want to take Kapooka, where you want to take Grasshoppers in coming years?
No, I'm really looking forward to take Grasshoppers to multiple countries. That's like the biggest dream that I wake up to now. Let's summarize it that way.
Fantastic. If you want to find out more about what Dulith is doing, and of course you do, then you can follow him on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Right? Just search.
But really on LinkedIn.
Okay, yes. Let's focus on LinkedIn. Just search Dulith Herat. And just to address the elephant in the room or the peacock in the room, we are at the UN where the peacocks just kind of roam around. But remember, grasshoppers are better
than a peacock?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Thanks so much for joining us, Dulith. It was a pleasure to touch base again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Right. And thanks for joining us here, and we'll just see you the next time.